You see, we're consuming 30% more sugar than our grandparents. Wild, hey? Sugar is acidic, and what you need to know is it changes the biochemistry of the body. And when we're in an acid environment, and when the body is in an acid environment, there's less oxygen. And when there's less oxygen, we have brain fog, we have fatigue. And do you think with brain fog and fatigue, we're going to be working in an efficient way? We're going to be more productive or unproductive? Are we going to be working, optimally or sub-optimally? The latter, of course. So it's about time we create new neural pathways. It's about time we start forming new habits. And it only takes 18 to 250 days to form a new habit. This is all backed up by science. These are non-negotiable. Remember, we are nipping bad habits in the bud. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. We're not going to wait until New Year's to start forming New Year's resolutions. Did you know that 95% of people who make New Year's resolutions end up breaking them by the middle of January? You see, if you want to take control of your life and take control back, you need to cut out all refined sugars. Sugars, whether it be in your teas, in your coffees, whether it's in your confectionery or your pastries. We can talk about replacing them with alternatives, but today we are purely focusing on eliminating. Simple carbs also break down into sugars. White flour, white pasta, white rice. These are not good sources for sustainable energy. Essentially what they are doing is producing a spike in our blood sugar levels, only to have a crash a few moments later. All forms of sugar are so addictive. Why? Because they feed the same reward centers of the brain we were speaking about earlier regarding social media. As a rule of thumb, what you need to remember is sugars and simple carbs provide a quick boost, while grains, legumes and whole foods provide more sustainable sources of energy to keep your body going for longer. High thinking, simple living. We need to come back into nature again and start eating organic, unrefined, unprocessed foods, sun-kissed foods, sun-powered fruits and vegetables, full spectrum. I can tell you, this was the key to my transformation. Today we are consuming foods that have nothing alive in them anymore. Everything is either chemicalized, radiated or denatured. We need the live enzymes, we need the prebiotics and probiotics, the live cultures. Did you know that our gut has 100 trillion gut bacteria in it, good and bad? It's a delicate equilibrium that needs to be kept in check. Most of us are just consuming foods to change how we feel, to change our state, to feel good temporarily, momentarily, but it's not sustainable. The average American has anywhere between 7 to 10 pounds of fecal matter stuck in their colon. Energy has to move, energy has to flow. And a healthy gut equals a healthy brain. Here's a tip. If you really have a craving for sugar or a sweet tooth and you don't have a nut allergy, go find yourself some dates. Get a handful of dates and a handful of pistachio nuts. Get a teaspoon of coconut oil, cold pressed, unrefined, organic if you can, and a teaspoon of cacao powder. Put that all into a food processor. Let it blend it up until it becomes like Play-Doh, Make it into balls, put it in the fridge for 30 minutes, and you have the best refined sugar-free dessert known to man. Just like a Snickers bar. And that reminds me of when I was in Africa. You see, guys, I was living in Africa for 2 years. I lived in Senegal for 6 months and Tanzania for a year and a half. And when I was in Senegal, I went to visit a wildlife reserve for lions. And when I was on this this tour, the tour guide kept stopping every 5 minutes. And you're probably wondering why I'm telling you this story, but he kept going to the bushes or the jungle and pulling out these fruits and herbs, and he was saying, hey, taste this, what does that taste like? Taste this, what does that taste like? And I was like, hey, this tastes like this tastes like Fanta. This tastes like Skittles. This tastes like cola bottles. Crazy. And then I realized everything we see in the supermarkets and everything that's in our confectionery and fizzy drinks, it's all been mimicked from nature. So we need to come back to the original source. Right, next I want to talk to you about processed foods. We covered dopamine, we covered sugar. Now I want to talk to you about eliminating processed foods from your diet. Why is it important to stop eating processed foods? You ever heard of the gut-brain connection? Well, there's actually a book, and I recommend you all to go out there and read. called the gut-brain connection by Deepak Chopra. You see, a troubled intestine can send signals to the brain, just how the brain can send signals to the intestines. There's a bidirectional feedback loop, just like the HPA axis. For those of you who don't know the HPA axis, it's the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland and the adrenals. They're all connected through this axis. But we have a vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve is one of the biggest nerves connecting the gut and the brain. This sends signals both directions. You see, the gut makes the same chemicals that the brain makes. You know, this is a huge part of your intuition. Therefore, a person's stomach or intestinal distress can be the cause of depression, anxiety, or even stress. I know oily foods, deep fried foods and fast foods taste so good, but they contain high levels of sodium, high levels of salt, high levels of fat, and high levels of added sugar that not only whack our microbiome out of sync, but also knock our hormones out of sync. These are high level dopamine foods. You know they can have a similar effect to nicotine and alcohol. Now, I'm not saying stay away from all of these completely. You don't want to be a prisoner of your own diet. What I'm saying is do 80% healthy, disciplined, routine, structured, and then 20% treat yourself, everything within reason. If you're going to eat meat or fish, make sure it's grass-fed meats, and if it's fish, make sure it's wild from the ocean. And make sure that 75% of your plate is filled up with greens and vegetables, Brussels sprouts, runner beans, broccoli, asparagus. This is going to give you the fiber intake. This is going to clean your blood and ultimately alkalize the body. The fourth thing which helped me along my journey was getting my serotonin levels in check. Serotonin is the body's feel-good chemical. It plays several key roles in your body: learning, memory, temperature, sleep, sexual behavior, and hunger. When serotonin is at its normal levels, you feel more focused, you feel more happier, you feel more calmer, and emotionally stable. Look, you're not going to believe this, but 90% of the serotonin produced in the body is produced in the gut. So how can we increase our serotonin levels? Well, first of all, we need to eat more foods containing tryptophan. Tryptophan is the amino acid from which serotonin is made from. So these include things like pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, dates, jumbo oat. Nuts and seeds are high in tryptophan. What is important is that we're getting enough sunlight. You see, when we wake up, the body releases serotonin, when we get that first rush of sunlight. And when we go to sleep, we produce melatonin, hormone that helps us get to sleep. Which is going to lead me to my next and final point. At a certain time, we need to stop looking at our screens. A lot of the body's processes work with the sun and the moon, and the brain cannot tell the difference whether it is day or night if we were looking at a screen. Blue light from a screen disrupts your natural circadian rhythm. I want you to have no blue light 2 hours before you go to bed. Did you know that social media before bed has been linked to anxiety and depression? Whereas if you read a book or take a walk before bed, it's actually linked to being mood boosting. Talking about quality of sleep, guys, you need to invest in a proper mattress and duvet covers and pillowcases. You see, we're walking around with all the brand new Jordans and Air Force Ones. We've got 60, 70-inch televisions on our bedroom walls, but yet we're sleeping on springs. We're sleeping on polyester fibers. We need to go invest in natural fibers: linen, hemp, organic cotton, merino wool if you're in a colder climate. Another reason why we keep ending up in the same place over and over again is because we're not grateful for what we have. For the small things that we have, like a roof over our head, food on the table, family and friends that support us. How can we, want more when we can't even be grateful for the things that we do have? This is how we're going to get back into alignment and get centered again. Just take a second to just breathe for a second. When was the last time you actually took a deep breath in to the base of the diaphragm? When you're breathing, are you shallow breathing or deep breathing? We've actually forgotten how to breathe. We're in a state of amnesia. Look, this is going to take some work, but we need to stop being so hard on ourselves. We're so kind to other people and forgiving, but when it comes to ourselves, we're unforgiving and so mean to ourselves. So now that we have covered the basics, it's time to start making some lifestyle changes and getting our life back on track. We have to come out of our comfort zone.